Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Anxiety and Depression is Not Alone. This is episode 5. So last episode I talked about how powerful your mind is and how much it could actually change your life in a way where you actually don't know that it's actually changing your life. And going through anxiety and depression, one of the things that really changed my life was the way I was thinking, right? And these are some of the things that you don't really think about as you're going through that process of, living day by day, being anxious and being depressed, or in some cases, if you've hit rock bottom, you don't really have that thought of actually diving deep into your mind to really realize that all of these things are happening, right? And the thing about your mind being that powerful, especially when you have no control over it. I mean, it can get really dangerous because it's almost like, someone throwing you a book or putting you in a room and telling you, look, this is what you have to read. Like they're forcing you to read this book, or they're forcing you to watch this movie that you don't want to watch because you just don't like the whole idea of it, right? So the whole idea of the storybook that I was reading or telling myself was this world, this really dark world, this world that I didn't want to live in. But you know what? Every single day I was reading this book. Every day I was watching this same movie over and over again, right? And the more that I was reading it, the more that I was watching it, the more I was creating that world for myself. So, my world ended up becoming very dark, right? And as I was living in that darkness, my mind basically turned me into a monster, turned me into someone that I never thought I would become. I was very disgusted at myself, not knowing that the reason why was because I was just listening to what my mind was telling me. And these are things that I talked about in my previous episodes about how your mind is like, especially when they're dark and negative thoughts, it's almost like it's someone that you don't want to be surrounded with you don't want to be around with, right? But they are there. They are there with you every single day. The moment you wake up, the moment before you go to sleep, and even during your dream, while you're sleeping, they're there. That mind, that person that you don't want in your life is there, right? And it got to a point where it made me believe that my life was not really worth living. Not the sense that I wanted to harm myself in any way, but it just felt as though there wasn't a space for me anymore on this planet. Even though I had, amazing support from my family, that they showed me so much love, and my friends, they were all there for me. But because my mind was telling me that I was worthless and that was useless and there was no purpose for me anymore, I started to believe in it, and by listening to that, it made me feel that, I don't think anybody wants to be around me, because I felt that, first of all, I was embarrassed, right? I was ashamed of myself. I was disappointed because, I still had a lot of things I wanted to do, right? But I felt that because of what I was going through, that it was stopping me from achieving my goals. And I thought that I would never be able to do that anymore, right? So this episode, I want to talk a little bit about focus I want to start introducing you to how focus is so important, how it is the key to your success, to healing yourself. Because, during that time, I had focus, but it was not the right type of focus. I was focusing on something that was not helping myself. I was focusing on my negative thoughts, okay? So when I started focusing on my negative thoughts, then all that energy that I was spending was not focusing on the right things that were, the things that were supposed to heal yourself, which are the positive thoughts. So as I was focusing on these negative thoughts, that was the world I was creating, because the more I was thinking about how, this darkness is never going to end, that I'm never going to heal myself, and I'm never going to find my joy and happiness again, the more I've started to believe that was going to be my reality, right? So, I had to find a way to do something to change the way I was thinking, right? Change my daily routine, like I said in the last episode about changing your routine. What are you doing every single day that's that makes you feel that your life is horrible, right? What is it that you're doing every single day that's making your life seem like it's worthless, that you have no purpose? What are those thoughts that are going in your head that's telling you that you are not capable of doing amazing things, right? So I had to go inside my mind and I had to really dive deep inside, right? And tell myself, wait a second, these are those thoughts that are telling me that, you are this, you can't do that, don't believe in yourself, you know, everything you think is possible is impossible, right? And then I had to say to myself, you know what? I need to stop listening to those voices in my head. I have to wake up in the morning and I have to do something challenging. I had to be productive because I realized that lying on the couch and not doing anything all day was not something that is going to help change myself for a better future, right? So the one thing that I did, the biggest challenge, and I talk about a lot on my Facebook page, is a day when I decided that I wanted to clean my basement. I wanted to do something that's going to, allow me to put a lot of effort into it, and that I can do it on a daily basis, so that I could do something, so I could spend my time wisely every single day, right? So at first, when I went downstairs to my basement, and because I was lying on a couch pretty much for almost 2 years, that we started, with the family, we started putting everything downstairs, right? Like just shoving everything downstairs. And by the time, I decided to actually go downstairs, I could barely walk down the stairs because it was entirely blocked, right? And I think that's what clicked in my mind, and I said, you know what? This kind of reminds me of my life. This basement is so messed up, and it really reflected on what I felt my life was at that moment, right? So I basically went into deep into this corner in the basement, and I started from there. And at first, when I looked around, it was so overwhelming because I thought to myself, "There's no way I'm going to be able to do this right by myself." But then I told myself, you know what, Roger, you challenge yourself, and you told yourself, you know what, after you finish this, if you can finish it, you are going to feel so accomplished by doing it. And I didn't really think about how long it was going to take me. I just knew that I had a goal. Finally, the first time I actually had a goal that I wanted to achieve. It was been such a long time, right? Because I didn't have any goals as I was, going through that darkness, living day by day, telling myself that what's the point? What's the point of actually trying to achieve anything in life anymore? Because I'm not capable, right? But again, that was my mind telling me that, and now I know that anybody is capable of doing anything if you put your mind to it. So I started cleaning this. I started in a corner and I worked my way out. There were boxes everywhere, there's dust everywhere, and I didn't just pick up the box and I moved it into a corner. I actually went inside every single box and I removed everything that I thought that I could throw away, right? And then it took me every single day. I woke up with a purpose. After that first day, 10 to 12 hours a day, nonstop, and that allowed me to have focus on doing one thing, right, on a daily basis, which allowed me not to actually, it didn't come to me at the time while I was cleaning the basement until afterwards, after I finished cleaning the basement, that I was telling myself, where did my symptoms go? Because of my concussion, I had all these symptoms, right? I had like this tingling sensation all over my body, and I was so worried about that. And that was the main cause of my anxiety, right? Because I was just so afraid of these tingling sensations, and I thought it was going to be, a lifetime thing, right, and not a temporary thing. So, but the more I was productive every single day, and the more I was focused into cleaning the basement, I started to forget all the negative thoughts that I was thinking about on a daily basis, right? I started to forget how bad my life was. I started to forget about how I will never find my joy and happiness again. I started forgetting about, like, how incapable I was, right? I started to believe that I can start doing amazing things, right? And I think the belief system here is so important because, if you don't believe in yourself, then, everything starts from yourself. So if you don't believe in yourself, then how are you supposed to believe that you're going to be successful one day if you don't believe in yourself, right? So this trained me not just to be focused, but to also remind myself that, hey, you know what, Roger, you are strong, right? You do have determination. You can set yourself some goals that you can try to accomplish, all the things that I thought I was never going to do because I pushed them away, I started to tell myself, Roger, you can do absolutely all the things that you used to do, right? But this was, as I was cleaning up the basement, because it did take me 3.5 weeks, my mind started to be more clear, right? And that's the best thing about having focus, is that your mind is going to start to basically, because when you're thinking negatively, or you're anxious, or you're worrying all the time, there's just so much in your mind. It's so overwhelming, and sometimes you just don't really want to get in there and just kind of clear the fog, right? You just kind of allow it to get bigger and bigger. So with focus, you're going to allow yourself to basically, start to organize a little bit more on what's up here, right? And as you do that with focus, you can start clearing that clutter in your mind, and that's when the magic happens. That's when, everything starts to make more sense, right? So the basement took me about 3.5 weeks, and at the end of it, it was about, I think it was around 36 garbage bag full, like big garbage bag full, and I was very, 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 like everything had to be organized, and during that time when I was learning how to focus, that gave me that ability, to basically have things put into place rather than just taking one thing and just shoving it, right? And that's just what I do. That's what I love to do now. Now I really love to clean. Because even doing the dishes, or mowing the lawn, or doing like house chores, for example, that helps me with my focus, right? Because I pick one thing, I just want to make sure that it's done, but as I'm doing it, I don't think about anything else except for getting it done, right? And that's going to help you along with your life, with anything, right? If you're working on something right now and you just started, but you're telling yourself, hey, I don't think I'm going to be successful, if you have focus and determination, and you're telling yourself that, nothing's going to stop me to achieve this, then you're going to absolutely be able to do this, right? And the same goes with anxiety and depression too, right? And I know everybody's story is different, but if you have that mindset, that same kind of mindset, where you can tell yourself, okay, I need to be focused, I need to be determined, I can't let anyone or anything stop me in achieving my goal, and achieve to get to my success, then you are going to make that happen, right? I didn't think I was going to be able to clean up that basement, but I did, and so many great things happened to me after I accomplished that, because I was telling myself, hey, if I was able to clean up that basement, because at the beginning I didn't think I was going to be able to clean up the basement, I did it by myself, right? I put a lot of work, I put a lot of hard effort into doing it, but the feeling of accomplishment, I think, is one of the most rewarding things. And I took that with me, and I said, I want to feel it again, So after I'd done that basement, what is the next thing I'm going to challenge myself, right? That was the engine that I needed for myself, to motivate myself, to push me, to get things going again for my life. Because at that time, before I cleaned up the basement, my life was at a pause. I stopped doing everything. I didn't want to do anything because I thought that I couldn't do anything anymore, right? But because after that incident, it made me believe that I was able to do many things, right? I can create my own opportunities, right? I created that opportunity for myself. I told myself, this is something I need to challenge myself with, right? And then I need to get it done, and I did it, right? So, I learned that whole thing. If I hadn't cleaned up basement, I don't know where I would be, right? But I'm so glad I made that decision, because I learned so much from it. And at the end of it, guess what happened, guys? All my negative thoughts, everything I was thinking about prior to me cleaning that basement, they vanished. Like, it was, I know 3.5 weeks may seem short or long to some of you guys, but you know, it took 3.5 weeks for me to completely focus on one thing. And at the end of it, I felt like a brand new person. I finally felt like this is a better version of myself. I understand what that quote meant. When I started reading quotes and it started telling you that every single day you have one purpose, and that's to create a better version of yourself, right? So I think about that every single day. Every single day I try to do something so that I could become better than who I was yesterday. If you have that in your mindset as well, that is super important, right? So if you're thinking about, maybe today I could start something, maybe maybe the past month or year I've been really doing the same thing every single day, and I haven't really done anything to change myself. You can always start that. And I know sometimes it's hard to kind of get yourself motivated, but you have to motivate yourself, or you have to find things to motivate you to get things moving for yourself. Okay, everything is about change. You can't, like in life, we're at this level where we think sometimes that this is the best I can be, this is the farthest I can ever go in my life. But it's not true. This is only one small fraction of where you can be, right? You can definitely become better tomorrow. If you work on yourself today, you could become better tomorrow, right? And you can look back and say, you know what, I actually feel like a different person, right? Build that engine for yourself so that you can start motivating yourself more and challenge yourself every single day, right? And focus on your goals, focus on what you like where you see yourself in the next year or so, right? Look at that, create that vision for yourself, instead of telling yourself, instead of living under the cloud or living in that fog that's stopping you from moving forward, right? So next episode, I'm going to talk a little bit more about focus, but I just wanted to talk to you about my basement story, because that is where I learned all of it from. But focus is definitely key. So keep that in mind. Next episode, I'm going to talk more about focus, because it is really the number one thing besides loving yourself, because loving yourself is the second most important thing. Because before you can actually start loving yourself, you have to start working up here first, right? You have to start clearing things up in your mind, and focus is the main thing that's going to help you start to see yourself in a more clear world, right? So that you can start creating a better vision of where you want to see yourself moving forward. Okay, so I will catch you next episode. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, and I'll catch you next video. Take care.